Yes! Yes, 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 yes. Hey everybody, this is Kohdok here, and today I can finally tell you about one of my personal favorite card games. This is Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is specifically the remake version, the updated version that came out as part of Kickstarter. I did participate in that Kickstarter, so this is my backer reward, but Sentinels of the Multiverse is a card game that has been around since 2010. And the reason I like it so much, it's a game that I've mentioned a lot but haven't gotten the chance to show off because I've never actually owned a copy of it. I've only ever played it, like, at conventions, at friends' houses. Yes, I have those. And, you know, game stores, anybody busts this game out, I'm going to play it. But it's one of my personal favorite games because it is a cooperative card game. It's one of the first cooperative card games that I am really aware of. It's the first that I've ever played. It is one of the first ones, and it would later go on to inspire games like Arkham Horror, like Marvel Champions. This game is a lot more straightforward, though. So, as the box implies here, what happens is you form a team of between 3 to 5 superhero characters who fight against a villain who is controlled by essentially a card-based artificial intelligence. I've done a video about these sorts of things, and Sentinels of the Multiverse, I think, is one of the best examples of it. But anyway, the idea is that it's a send-up of, like, superhero comics, so you have all these characters. You have our Superman send-up, we have Batman, we have Mr. Freeze, if he was a good guy, got Iron Man, of course, you have Flash. The idea is that they're sort of similar to other superhero characters, but they are also their own thing. This, like I said, this is the game that largely inspired Marvel Legends, although based on the contents of this definitive edition box, they took some notes from Marvel Champions when they were looking at it. Yeah, not Legends, Champions. I keep mistaking them. Legends is the one that's like, it's like Ascension. But anyway, I love this. They're like comic book print size for the rules, and they have separate rule book and strategy book. I like this. So this is like the rule book, teaches you how to play. This lore book here, not only does it contain all the information of the characters in a separate thing, it's also like a strategy guide for the different characters, the strategies they use, or the villains, how to fight them. The inside of the box is kind of an interesting story here. So this is actually kind of like a flimsy, basic cardboard tray. This isn't like a fancy card tray, but you can tell that when they put this together, they actually had it as a card box in mind. So you can store all of the cards inside this one box. And I've actually done a trick to this box where it has 4 sheets of cutout tokens, and I actually took 2 of those empty sheets and slipped them underneath, which pushes everything to the lid of the box so things don't rattle around or move around as much. But yes, anyway, we have our heroes down here. This is our hero decks. Now, Sentinels of the Multiverse, unlike with Marvel Champions or a lot of the other games, the decks are all pre-built. You have the villain decks, which are all pre-built, the area decks that are all pre-built, and the hero decks that are all pre-built. So this is technically not like a trading card game or like an expandable card game. It's a bit more like a party game that plays like a trading card game, but honestly, I think that works in this game's favor, because if you want to just loop in a friend to play, you just hand them a deck and you're good. Now, this also contains like a separate token box here, but I'm using it to store some things. Now, here is something that I think they took notes on for Marvel Champions. Like, we have the health dials for the character. Each character has a different starting health. Like Legacy, the Superman send-up has a lot of health, but other ones that have like more technical abilities, like Tachyon, who is the Flash send-up, they get some different ones. But these dials were not in the original game. The original game was nothing but these paper damage counters, and Marvel Champions included these dials, which is why I imagine these dials are here. But still, they're a great idea. They also have a special one for the villain, which can go as high as like... How high can it go? It can go as high as 200, and that's the health of the strongest villain, at least in this box, is 200, whereas the heroes, they get somewhere in the ballpark of 32, 33. So you have your hero cards, and when you get your hero card, Wraith, yes, that was her name. I was trying to remember if it was Shade or Wraith. Yep, Wraith. So we have Legacy, who is our Superman send-up. He is probably the easiest hero to use. He is about support. He can buff his allies. He can hit fairly hard, but he's not really like the big damage dealer. He's more a support type character. If you want damage, you go with Ra, kind of a send up of Thor, in that he inherits the powers of an ancient god. Ra is pure DPS, like the villain on the box. Our good friend Baron Blade. Any of you who have played any amount of Sentinels are probably familiar with Baron Blade. He is basically the easy mode villain. And, you know, there he is in his armor from the box. So what happens is you stop his plans, you thwart his plan on the first half of his fight, and then he changes form to try to take out the heroes and get revenge. So that's one of the neat things it does. And then they actually have some additional cards here for the Mad Bomber Baron Blade, which is like a remix version of the villain. So yes, that's another thing that this game does, is while the decks for the characters are pre-constructed, they can still mess with them by providing additional versions of characters. Like we have here a send-up of like early comic design for First Appearance Legacy, and the until you start phase minus. So what happens is during your turn you get your deck, so you draw your starting hand, and during your turn you play one card, you use one power, which might be on your character card or on one of the cards you've put into play, and then you draw a card. Very straightforward, very easy to remember. And Legacy's powers are about buffing his allies, and this one is based on a special variant of Legacy that also came out. They usually do these special variant characters as promo cards. I think these came as part of the definitive edition because that is what I ordered. But yes, the ability to try out different base forms of characters that use the same deck. Now, Basic Legacy has an ability that gives +1 damage to all ally characters. Now, what that means is their attacks do more damage, which, you know, is like his leadership, his morale boosting abilities. And then the Legacy version of Legacy, the First Appearance Legacy, instead defends allies and decreases the damage they take. Both very good, very interesting abilities. The ones on these base cards tend to be a lot more straightforward. Like you have Tachyon, who's revealed the top card of your deck, draw or discard it. Tachyon, she's based on the Flash, so she is all about lots of draw power, although Haka, my favorites are Legacy and Haka. Haka has been tweaked a little bit so that he's a bit more about draw power. Haka was one of my favorites in the original game because he had an ability called Savage Mana, which, what happens is the villain, like, let's get out our Baron Blade again. There's our Baron Blade deck. Now, the villains, what they do is they have their own deck with special cards. These represent their minions, their abilities, their attacks. I don't want to shuffle this Baron Blade deck because it's there's like a first game setup. Like, he always starts with the mobile defense platform, which makes him immune to damage. So even though Baron Blade has a listed hit points of 40, he's actually the only character who, like, has a permanent flip over that heals him. Like, you drop him to 0, and then you flip him over, and he goes back up to 30, but then he starts with the mobile defense platform that makes him immune to damage, so he essentially has 82 health, even though it looks like it says 40 on here. But yeah, what would happen is, if the villain goes through their entire deck, they reshuffle the deck, and put it back down and start drawing from it again. Now, in the case of Haka, his Savage Mana would instead take these cards that he destroys, and instead he basically holds on to them. This is to charge up like a strong attack, but everybody instantly realized, hey, this means those cards don't get shuffled back into the villain deck, so we have Haka be last in line, and he finishes off all of the targets. That's been replaced with a new card that kind of does the same thing, only rather than storing cards he destroys, it instead adds to his draw power. He destroys something, he gets to draw a card. So that is one of the big changes that's gone down with this game, is the decks don't really kind of you don't stir items together the way you used to, like Haka being able to take the villain cards. This is, again, to make everything really straightforward. You don't have to, like, build an encounter deck over time. You grab one villain deck, you grab one location deck, and what these do is they add like a complication. So you have a location deck and a villain deck, and those two work together to form the challenge for the player. So you can do different combinations of villain decks and encounter decks, and the villains have different forms that they can use, different rules needed to fight them. So there's a lot of potential in this deck, in this game. And like I said, the fact that it's really easy to tag in and tag out is actually really nice. Although, in the case of that mobile defense platform, a good first turn on Ra is pure DPS. Ra can, on his first turn, inflict enough damage to destroy that platform. He has the special Staff of Ra, which looks like Thor's hammer, which he has a card that allows him to search it out and put it into play, then play another card. If he uses that card to play his attack that does 5 damage, the Staff of Ra increases that to 6, then you can discard the Staff of Ra to double that damage to 12. Bye-bye mobile defense platform, Baron Blade's vulnerable turn 1. So there's a lot of cool tricks here. Like the Wraith, she's Batman, so she's all about having cool gadgets, having lots of cool utility that she can use turn after turn after turn. Bunker's kind of similar. Like I said, Tachyon is also like draw power, only she's sort of draw support, whereas Haka is also draw power, but he is like draw power plus aggression, while Tachyon is draw power plus support. So Tachyon often lets other players draw cards, often at the cost of her health, which starts at 27, so she's kind of risky. Unity, Argent Adept. Argent Adept has a lot of really weird things. Like he has to like match a rhythm in order to keep going, so he's the most difficult one. You have Absolute Zero, who, like I said, is Mr. Freeze, but good. When he uses his powers, he inflicts cold damage, but he takes heat damage because he's Mr. Freeze. But yeah, there's so much going on here. We got Captain Cosmic, who's Captain Marvel. We got Platoon here. I don't know what he's doing here. But like I said, my favorites are Legacy and Haka. I mean, I could probably do Ra too, but these guys just... Everybody has a hero that matches their style, and another fun thing they would do is, here's actually how the old cards were. The hero cards were included at regular size so that it would fit into one thing, and yeah, this was sold to me in the bag like this. It is that kind of operation. But you can get more hero decks by buying either expansions that include the heroes with some more villains and some more challenges, although in some cases you can also buy the heroes piecemeal, so the fact that you can get those easy expansions is really nice. But like I said, the real fun of it is that it's teamwork, it's easy to drop in and out, it is just a phenomenal good time. Oh, something I forgot to mention, let's see if I can find one in here, but the villain cards actually gain their strength depending on the number of heroes in play. Yeah, here we go. This card deals the hero -2 hero targets with the highest HP 2 energy damage each. So hero, this is the number of people playing, is this hero icon right here. Let's see if I can... Yeah, this hero icon right here is how many players are playing. So a lot of villains have abilities that are strength depending on how many players there are. So the villains sort of automatically scale depending on how many players are playing. It's so simple, it's so uncomplicated. You just flip the top card of the encounter deck, then you flip the top card of the villain deck, and then each player takes their turn playing a card, using a power, and drawing a card. And you draw the card at the end so that you have your hand at the start and can plan your turn accordingly, which is something I really like. There's a lot of planning ahead, because you can plan ahead because you're not dependent on what you draw at the start of the turn. Gameplay can really keep moving. You're encouraged to cooperate with each other. It's just such a phenomenal experience. It's a great team building exercise if you can get your hands on it. But yeah, this is the new Sentinels. I'm gonna see if I can. The box is a bit of an unusual size. I'm gonna see if I can find like one of those like sweet, like those slick like box upgrades that I showed off in my other video. See if I can like get that in here to apply that upgrade here. Like in my my copy of Ashes, I have one in there that actually has like little token trays and stuff too, which are great for these. This one looks like it uses like the smaller like Fantasy Flight size, but we'll see if we can get some nicer inserts on this. But yes, that is Sentinels of the Multiverse. A wonderful, wonderful game, a wonderful, wonderful experience, a great way to spend a night with a bunch of friends if you don't really want to spend too much time on setup. It is such a fast game to set up. You pick a character, you pick a villain, shuffle their deck, set it. Pick an environment, shuffle their deck, set it. Each player gets a hero, they shuffle their deck and set it. If somebody's like, hey, what's going on? It's like, hey, here, you can play Tachyon, and, you know, such an easy experience. Like I said, it's a party game that plays like a trading card game and uses the strengths of both. It is a fantastic example of game design. If you can get your hands on a copy of Sentinels of the Multiverse, either this new edition or the old edition, by all means do so. You owe it to yourself to at least try to play this game. at least once. So yeah, that is it. Sentinels of the Multiverse. I don't know if they're gonna like. I know there's like games that allow people to play this game like at home, like they get one hero and play it over Wi-Fi. If there was something that did like an automatic villain thing, like something that did the villain turns automatically, I think this would be like a great online game to do as well. It's just so much fun. It's amazing. I guess I'm out of words here, but yeah, this is Sentinels of the Multiverse, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off.